NFL Live on a doubleheader Monday. The 1-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 0-1 Houston Texans, still looking for their first touchdown of the season. And the Chargers, their first game in 10 days, first on American soil this season. They're in Vegas for an AFC West showdown. Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh, the old foes, back at it again. But we start the show with breaking news out of Washington. Adam, what more can you tell us?
Hannah, Jayden Daniels has a knee sprain that could wind up sidelining him for Sunday's game against the Raiders. Now, he had an ice pack on his left knee after Thursday night's loss in Green Bay. He was hobbling around a little bit. They did test. They determined it was nothing serious, but it is enough to call into question his status for Sunday's game against the Raiders and whether or not Jayden Daniels would be able to play. And so the Raiders will play the Chargers tonight, have a short week, but they will not know until later this week whether they'll be getting Jayden Daniels. Washington will see how that knee is responding during the course of this week.
Yep, that backup Marcus Mariota, 34-40 in his career as a starter. We have a lot of news. We have a full house. We have J-Mac, we have Field, we have Mina, we have Dan. So let's get going. Dan, how big of a deal is this injury for a quarterback who uses his legs as much as Jayden Daniels?
It's a huge deal. It was a conversation for Jayden coming out of school of he was an athletic quarterback that takes hits and last year did a good job of avoiding that. But this offense is uniquely built around Jayden Daniels. If you think about the way that they use no huddle, the way that they utilize him in their run game, the way that they could hold the backside of defense to help some people on that run game, his escapability in some of their RPO game and some of their break the pocket stuff in the fourth down. So while there is, at least by reports to Shefty, not a long-term concern, this is a big loss for Washington, not only by the week, but also what long-term effect it could have on how he can operate their offense.
Yeah, my concern for this, Dan, to your point, is more about Jayden Daniels' career. He has to take less contact. Through the first 2 weeks of the season, he leads all quarterbacks in QB contact, 29, both as a passer, QB hits, and scrambling. And you can say, well, he played two difficult defenses. Packers defense looks amazing. He led all quarterbacks in QB contact last year. He led all quarterbacks in scramble rate last year. It's just not sustainable. And he is a quarterback who can win from the pocket, and he can be a part of that designed run game without it being the bulk of it the way it has been, frankly, through much of this season. So I think there's got to be some tough conversations with Daniels about his style of play with an eye towards his continued longevity, because he is too special to absorb this much contact.
Absolutely, and we see coaches every year have that discussion about your quarterback that can change the game with his ability to run, but also you need him available to be out there every given Sunday. I look at this Washington Commanders team, and this is a team in the NFC that we're looking at to possibly compete with the Eagles and the Packers to represent the NFC in a Super Bowl. Where do they go from here? Marcus Mariota comes in at the quarterback position. Can he hold down the helm and figure out a way to win some games in the absence of Jayden Daniels, depending upon the extent of that injury? A 31-year-old quarterback, he could run in his day. Can he still execute this offense the same way, the way Cliff Kingsbury, to Dan's point, has designed it, where Jayden is so dangerous within it?
Maybe, but probably not that likely, right? I mean, there's a reason why Jayden kind of took this league by storm last season. A couple of thoughts come to mind. First of all, there were some signs that something was amiss during the game. Jayden had 17 rushing yards against the Packers this past Thursday night. That's a great defense that has athletes all over the field. That's the second fewest rushing yards that Jayden's had in a game so far in his career. I also would note this. Last year, there was significant uncertainty surrounding Jayden Daniels' status in what was supposed to be this Caleb Williams versus Jayden Daniels matchup against the Bears. And Jayden was out there on the field on Sunday. I would not rule out Jayden Daniels based off what I know about the player and how LSU during his college days was calling him Gumby with the way that he was able to absorb all that content.
Yeah, he did bulk up, by the way, in the offseason in an effort to be more durable. Mariota hasn't started a game since 2002. We have more breaking news now. Another quarterback, the guy in Minnesota, Adam. What's happening there?
Well, he's got a sprained ankle, Hannah, and J.J. McCarthy is more than likely not to play Sunday versus the Cincinnati Bengals, which would mean that Carson Wentz would step in and replace J.J. McCarthy. Remember all the quarterback juggling that the Vikings did this summer during the season? They signed Sam Howell, they traded Sam Howell to the Philadelphia Eagles, they signed Carson Wentz to replace Sam Howell, and this is why they have Carson Wentz, because J.J. McCarthy got beat up in the game on Sunday night against the Atlanta Falcons. Came in this morning with an ankle injury. They went through testing, and the Vikings determined that the chances are he's not going to be able to play this week. After that, they leave for overseas trips. We'll see how J.J. McCarthy responds to that.
Yeah, unfortunate setback for a guy that's really having some growing pains playing right now. Dan, what's your reaction upon hearing this news?
Yeah, it's concerning. He's missed 18 games and played in 2. At some point, young quarterbacks need to get on the field, and this is an organization and a team very good. Roster top to bottom, very good, and they have entrusted the future of the team in his hands. And while JG has a ton of experience, certainly in his playing time in college, he needs, and you could watch through 2 games if we're just being fair, he needs to be on the field just to feel the speed of the pass rush and feel the speed of how windows in the NFL are closing faster than college. And so not going to overreact, and hopefully this is a short-term thing, but the fact that we are this quickly into his second game of his second season and he's missed 18 games and played in 2, that has to be concerning in the building.
Yeah, derailing any sort of progress that he might make after a tough game yesterday. We'll get into that. Carson Wentz did make one start last season, by the way, for the Chiefs. This was going to be our lead today. More breaking news. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow will need toe surgery that will sideline him for a minimum of 3 months. He suffered the toe turf injury in the first half of yesterday's game with the Jaguars when he was sacked. Bengals head coach Zach Taylor addressing the media moments ago.
It's unfortunate that this happened. But again, that's part of football, and that's what's going to happen. Guys are in the pocket, guys are moving around. I don't know how a turf toe injury fully happens, how you got to get hit or stepped on. I get it. I understand where people are going to come from. It's going to be very attacking of us and our style of play. That's got us to a Super Bowl and an AFC championship and 2 division titles and won a lot of games for us. So we're always evaluating how we can protect our players and put them in the best position possible. So I take accountability for that. And if people want to blame me for putting them in a position, I'm fine taking that.
Jake Browning is the backup. He had 3 picks yesterday, nonetheless led them to a comeback win. Shefty, what more can you tell us?
This is a devastating blow to the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow in the National Football League. Joe Burrow went down yesterday, went for an MRI in the Bengals stadium. They're one of the few stadiums, if not the only stadium in the NFL, that has an MRI machine on site, and it determined that there was a significant turf toe injury that's going to require surgery. Now, they're going to wait for the swelling in that toe to go down before they operate, but once they do operate, Hannah, it's a minimum 3-month absence. And my understanding is for surgeries of that sort, it is more likely a 12 to 14-week recovery period. It is September 15th right now. The soonest that right now Joe Burrow could get back would be December 15th. They're scheduled to play the Ravens on December 14th. We'll see how that works out. But we know he's going to be sidelined indefinitely in the latest injury to derail a season of Joe Burrow's. He's had seasons robbed for knee injuries, for wrist injuries, for all sorts of issues. This is the latest one. Surgery will happen probably in the next week, and that will sideline him indefinitely.
They are 2 games under 500 in all those games that he has missed. Thank you, Adam. News coming fast and furious. And since drafting Joe Burrow first overall in 2020, the Bengals are 10 games over 500 with him as the starting quarterback, compared to that 6-8 mark that I referenced with any other quarterback. Also, they average about 5.5 more points a game, 57 more passing yards when Burrow is under center. And for reference, Cincinnati was 4-3 when Jake Browning took over when Burrow was hurt in 2023. They spent all that money on their receivers. And then Burrow gets hurt on a sack. Dan, you have had turf toe. How bad is it?
Yeah, maybe they should have taken the money that they used to purchase that MRI machine and, maybe invested into an offensive line better. Turf toe's terrible. It's crazy painful. I remember when I did mine, very similar type of play for Joe.